How you doing? Hey guys, it's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. I'm sick, and I've been sick for about a week now, which is why there were no posts last week. And we're going into week 2 of this. I'm feeling a lot better, but I'm still not 100%. And I'm supposed to be traveling to Houston in a couple of days. So instead of leaving you on the dark for 2 full weeks, I decided it might be fun to film a lo-fi video, just really low stakes. We're gonna be talking about White Lotus, giving a recap and thoughts on season 1 and 2, and then predictions, thoughts into season 3, and then maybe do a little bit of analysis, getting into like the social commentary of it all and how it really does portray wealth, whiteness, and privilege, and sort of turns those concepts in on each other. But yeah, we're not getting into the political and economic state of the world as we normally do on this channel. And you know, as usual, before we get into anything, if you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. Leave a like on this video because it helps a ton with the YouTube algorithm. Follow me on my socials at Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And consider clicking the join button here or here to become a channel member today. I posted a Heartstopper Season 2 review last week, and next week channel members are getting a Bottoms review, the movie. And you also get early access to videos like these before they get publicly uploaded, as well as shout out at the end of every one of these videos. It's a really good time, so you should definitely consider it. But let's talk about White Lotus. Now, everyone's been telling me to watch White Lotus for the longest time, and I never really got it. Like, I'd always watch up until like episode 2 of season 1, and then just cut it off because I just couldn't get through it. Because in my mind, I feel like the way that it was advertised on social media, or at least the way that people have been popularizing it, like the clips that go viral, made it seem like it's this intense show, or it's like this show that like gets really dark and it's just like dark throughout the entire show, when in reality I feel like White Lotus, it's one of those shows that like builds up to the finale. Like everything is building up to the finale, so I feel like it very much follows the general like storytelling arc of like the intro, exposition, then rising action, and then leaving climax and resolution for like the last episode or two. And that kind of caught me off guard because I felt like White Lotus was just very slow when I first watched it. But then I have to say, I want to say 2 weeks ago I gave it a second watch, like, because you know, I was here. I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I sat down and I watched the entire first season, and I got it. I understood. I got the appeal. And then I was like, okay, let me watch season 2. Let me catch up on season 2. And that is when the I got it turned into I love it, because I personally feel like I can call myself a solid White Lotus stan now, because I feel like season 1 was cool, but season 2 was such a great season. That is television right there. But I'm sure if you're watching this video then you already know this, so let's do a little recap, shall we? Because it's been a minute. Before we get into the season 3 cast announcements, predictions for plot, and blah 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 blah. So season 1 follows about 3 storylines, I believe. Well, maybe 4 actually. So you have the storyline revolving around the family, with the 2 parents, 2 kids, one of them being Sydney Sweeney and the friend, and their adventures and trials and tribulations. The father is having like some kind of midlife crisis because he found out that his dad was secretly DL and ended up passing from AIDS. The mom's going through stuff because she's desperately trying to hold this family together through her trip while also being a corporate baddie. And she just eventually just gets overwhelmed because no one is really thinking or caring about her, and they're all obsessed with their own adventures. Sydney Sweeney's character Olivia and her friend Paula are honestly trying to live their lives on the island, checking Olivia's parents for being mildly racist and problematic, as well as tea going on between the 2 of them because Olivia has a serious superiority complex around Paula, which leads to them falling out, and Paula falling for a boy and incentivizing said boy to steal from that family. Yeah, there is a lot going on now that I say that out loud. Like, the show gets down, they don't play. And then the younger brother Quinn, who is off doing literally any and everything. He like finds his tribe with like the native Hawaiians and goes rowing with them. And there's a lot to be said about his character because he has a lot, but also nothing going on at the same time. Then you have the second group being a couple, Rachel and Shane, who are newlyweds. Shane basically being a nepo baby to the most derogatory degree, and Rachel being young, trying to figure out her own life and getting into this marriage, not being of the same socioeconomic status. Then the third group, and honestly one of my favorite groups, is Tanya, who's played by the iconic Jennifer Coolidge, Greg, and Belinda, who's played by the iconic Insecure actress Natasha Rothwell. And their tea is that Tanya is at this resort in order to bury her mother, or to spread her mother's ashes in the ocean. And Belinda's there to help her with that because Tanya promises Belinda that she's going to invest in Belinda's spa business. Spoiler alert, that doesn't end up happening. And then finally, the fourth group I could argue is Armand himself and his legion of hotel twinks, one of them being played by Lucas Gage. What I really like about season 1 is how well the storylines really intersect with each other while also giving them their own space to sort of flesh out. Like, it doesn't feel like they're always constantly combining with each other. In fact, it really does give the experience that we're witnessing just like multiple people's hotel experience, and the fact that they don't necessarily have to be related to each other. Like with the family situation, their overarching issue is that they don't want to be honest with each other and really be who they are. Like, for example, like I said, the dad is going through crisis and goes through this kick of wanting to be ultra vulnerable, but also not knowing how to really appear that way for his kids. Olivia, the daughter, goes through this thing of trying to hold her parents accountable for their actions and try and hold herself accountable for her actions for being a white person in Hawaii, but then ultimately decides, after being called out by Paula, to just honestly embrace her privilege and to stop trying to be someone that she's not. And I find that very interesting because I feel like at the very end of this season, we kind of see her have a full circle where she's just okay back in her performativeness, but I think a lot of that comes from Paula, because Paula, I feel like, is one of the most complex characters in that group, I'd say, because she's an outsider to the family and she's able to like see what is going on and being like the one person of color around this rich white family. She sees how things go down. She tries to find allyship and friendship with Olivia, but because of their cultural differences, because of the way that they were raised differently, like that just doesn't necessarily translate, and the dynamics between the two of them, they get conveyed that are explained also kind of play into that, because like I was saying before, Olivia has this sort of superiority complex with Paula in the sense that she feels like Paula can never have anything that's better than her, making it seem as though she views Paula as less than, and being that like Olivia is here and Paula is there should never be a time where Paula is here, or even here, to be honest. Like, she should always be below her. So in the show, how this manifests is whenever Paula gets male attention or talks to a guy, Olivia will go and talk to that same guy and try and get with that same guy and steal him away from Paula, because Paula can't have that leg up on Olivia. And I can honestly go so much deeper into this because I feel like the family's relationship is so interesting and complex, especially with the argument scene. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to move on and just give a simple recap for what happened that season. Essentially, big picture, the family gets robbed by Paula's love interest. Paula never gets explicitly caught by the family, but Olivia catches her. And they end up going home, except for the son, who stays back and joins that rowing crew. Tanya ends up finding this guy, Greg, that she falls head over heels for, ditches Belinda, and ends up going back home to LA. The young couple and Armand, the hotel manager, end up getting into this sort of war with each other, where they try and one up each other by doing each other dirty. Very much corporate Tom and Jerry, but eventually the stunts on each other go too far when Armand goes to defecate and urinate in Shane, the husband's, luggage, to which Shane ends up accidentally stabbing and killing Armand. And the young couple ends up reconciling their differences, and the wife ends up deciding to agree to be a trophy wife after rebelling against him the whole season. There's also more to that I'm glossing over. And the whole time before Armand unfortunately was unalived, he was a substance addict, essentially taking the substances from Olivia and Paula's backpack and having intercourse with the Twink Hotel employees. That's a lot for season 1, I know. Moving on to season 2. And like I said, season 1 was a great setup. Season 1 was a great pilot season. And I feel like what season 1 did well, season 2 really picked up and ran with. Because I feel like season 2 was a lot less conventionally boring. I feel like from the start there was more going on. And I feel like a lot of that is contributed to the themes of each season. Like, I feel like season 1 was very much attributed to wealth and money, whereas season 2 was more positioned, and the theme of season 2 was more so around sex. And as we know, sex sells. It tends to be more overtly messy, and that is what season 2 was. It was a bunch of messiness. This season had a lot more storylines because there are also just like a lot of characters this season. You have the two couples, Cameron and Daphne, as well as Ethan and Harper, who are there on like a double date vacation sort of vibe. You have Tanya back again. I was so glad to see her in season 2. Greg, the gays, and her assistant. You have the DeGrasso family, as well as the hotel staff, this time the manager being Valentina, and the two adult workers. And really the only thing that's tying these groups together are the two adult workers, because the two adult workers are the ones that are melding through all of these groups. And you can use your imagination for what I mean by adult worker. I'm not trying to get demonetized, because Lucia and Mia have ties to the hotel, have ties to the DeGrasso family, have ties to the two couples. I think the only one they don't have direct ties to is Tanya's group, but kind of do tangentially, because Lucia and Albie get in a quick little relationship, and Tanya's assistant Portia is meant to be one of the love interests, is kind of love interest with Albie also. So yeah, very messy season. I feel like the highlights for season 2 for me were the two couples. Like, I could have watched the entire show just being on the two couples because I feel like they were so interesting. And that mostly speaks to the performances of Aubrey Plaza, who played Harper. Actually, I was going to break it up into individuals, but I feel like all 4 of them were just such great talent, and I feel like they portrayed their story so well. If you haven't seen the show, basically these two couples start off as polar opposites of each other, and eventually the theme of it all is that they become very similar in a sense to both survive. Because Daphne and Cameron are in a relationship where they're married and have kids, yet they don't have direct communication with each other and end up getting back at each other instead of actually communicating directly. So they end up cheating on each other, doing things without each other, knowing that it's going to upset them. Like, they have a very toxic relationship, not built on truth. Whereas Harper and Ethan's relationship is built primarily on trust. However, they've lost their spark because they're very mundane and not as exciting. And essentially by the end of it, if you don't want spoilers, then skip past this part. They end up all cheating on each other with each other and lying to one another to eventually just become closer and sort of live in this whole ignorance is bliss sort of zone. And I just feel like their story was just so interesting. And another reason why I love this season so much more than season 1 is because I feel like the action and I feel like the stakes were just higher to begin with. Like, I feel like we got to the good stuff a lot sooner and it stayed that way for a little bit longer. Like, instead of like the last 2 episodes being the most shocking, I'd say like the latter half of this season. I think the season's like 7 episodes. So like the latter 4 are like very interesting, very messy. Because the DeGrasso family is also a mess. Because the dad has a sex addiction, which resulted in him cheating on his wife, which is why he's on this trip, because he's on a heritage trip, but also like to get away from the family. And really weird, but the dad and the son end up hooking up with the same person, that person being Lucia. Very strange. But I would be remiss if I did not talk about the relationship between Albie and Portia. I feel like I was so upset that they didn't become endgame and it was only alluded to them being together at the very end. And I'm mad that the Aussie came between the two of them because I feel like they were so good for each other. I feel like Albie was too nice guy-ish, and when he was explaining nice guy syndrome, he kind of gave me an ick, but I feel like they could have gotten past that and they could have worked on it. But I understand they needed a third to really switch things up. But I really loved Albie and Portia. I really loved Portia's character a lot, just because I feel like Portia was so real. Having to be Tanya's assistant and dealing with Tanya's craziness, along with having her own love life, is just amazing. Love that. Tanya's storyline, literally insane. I feel like they give her some of the most chaotic storylines just because we want to see Jennifer Coolidge in these insane scenarios. The show came out a year ago, so I'm not gonna hold back spoilers, I don't think. Like the whole meme that came out of the show with the gays are trying to kill me, iconic. And wild how she ended up taking out all the gays. Like that was insane to me. And that whole plotline was just so interesting. The fact that like her husband Greg is actually the person that set her up to be unalived, yet she flipped the script and eventually was the one to end herself because she for some reason didn't know how to take a ladder down from the boat instead of jumping off the boat and hitting her head and drowning herself. Like, crazy. But that plotline was amazing. I feel like some of the ones that were lacking for me were honestly the hotel staff one. Like the hotel staff one was cool and all, but I feel like the stuff with Valentina and Valentina coming out as a lesbian, but also like not knowing how to deal with that, then getting played, falling for a straight girl, and then falling for another straight girl who like led her on by pretending to be bisexual when really she was just like gay for pay. Like Valentina's story was just sad. Homegirl was going out sad. I kind of hate that for her. But yeah, I have to say that season 2 really did take it home for me. I was a huge fan of this season. And in my opinion, I feel like it was done a little bit better in terms of the plot, in terms of the score, in terms of the way that it was like shot. There were tons of like gorgeous scenes since they were in Italy. So I mean, like, how could you not? Also, can we talk about Albie for a second? I need to gush over Albie because I did not know where I recognized him from for the longest time, and it wasn't until very recently that I realized Albie is from The Order. For The Order stands, any Order stands in chat, like The Order was such a good show, and I'm so glad that Albie's in this because his actor eats. I loved him on The Order, and I loved him on season 2, which gets me so excited for season 3. We're talking about predictions now, friends, because season 3 is set to take place in Thailand, and I'm excited for Thailand because I feel like they can do very interesting things with Thailand. They said allegedly, and by allegedly I mean according to this Elle article that I read, the theme of season 3 is supposed to revolve around death. So like I said, season 1 revolved around money, season 2 revolved around sex, and season 3 is supposed to revolve around death, which makes me hopeful that they bring back Tanya in some unserious way, like talking about some ghosts and spirits and stuff, because I feel like Tanya, Jennifer Coolidge, is one of the highlights of White Lotus. She's like White Lotus legacy, and I'm really sad that she's gone in the show. I hope she can come back in the form of like some kind of unserious spirit or something. But yeah, it makes me excited for season 3, having it be in Thailand, having it revolve around death, because I feel like it's going to get into some darker topics. And for one, the cast so far just seems like it's going to eat. Like we have Belinda from season 1 returning, to this season, which makes me feel like she got transferred from Hawaii to Thailand. And I'm gonna be interested to see how she's changed after that, because it seemed at the end of season 1 that she was tired of rich people. So I'm excited to see how she's going to be at this other place for rich people. We also have a ton of new casts, and a lot of new casts from shows that we love and we've covered on this channel. We have Sarah Catherine Hook from First Kill, Amy Lou Wood from Sex Education. I'm so excited for her. My words cannot explain how excited I am for her to be on this show. Nicholas Duvernay from Bel Air, and Lisa from Blackpink. Like, this is a insane cast. Insane cast. I feel like casting is like such an important part of any show. And I feel like especially for shows like this where they cycle out casts so much, it's important to have some heavy hitters. And based on the list that I've seen, I feel like we've got that, and I'm excited to see where things go. I honestly would like to see more people of color for this season. For the cast that I've seen so far, there haven't been super many, and that's honestly my main critique with this show. Season 2 did a little bit better of a job, but I feel like this show by and large is just so white. Like, season 2 tried to do its big one by having like racially ambiguous characters, and they actually make a joke about this, like having it be Harper and Ethan, having them being a racially ambiguous couple. But like, still by and large, like the show is pretty white. Like, I'd love to see like a rich family of color be on the show, and then have a lot of interactions to do with that, like them navigating that space, being a rich family of color with these other families that are white and having all these thoughts about them. And just, I would love to see that, and I feel like that would be a better barrier of entry for people, because I feel like that was one of the things that also kind of dissuaded me from starting the White Lotus, because I was like, why do I want to watch a bunch of rich white people do their thing? I understand it now. I get the appeal now. But in terms of hopes and dreams, like, I hope eventually, I don't know if we're getting that in season 3, but if we do get a season 4, I want some color. I want a little bit more to this. But yeah, season 3 is supposed to come out in 2025, which is insane to say. But because of the writers and actor strike, things had to be pushed back. So 2025, which sounds atrocious. But I'm really excited for this season, y'all. I hope they expand upon season 2's greatness and bring that into season 3, because I feel like that would really take it home. But yeah, those are all the thoughts that I kind of got off the top of my mind right now. My mind's kind of going a little blank now, and I'm getting a little tired. So I guess I'll wrap the video here, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you're new, subscribe, leave a like on the video, follow me on socials at Imurgency. Let me know what you think of White Lotus. Are you excited for season 3? What are you most excited for? Do you think it's going to be a hit without Jennifer Coolidge? Personally, I don't know, but let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks again so much for watching. I've been Imurgency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.